The Cannabis Conference and Expo returns to Toronto, June 1st through the 3rd. This exciting event is free for cannabis retailers and will feature Tommy Chong receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Cannabis Industry Awards. There are still good booth locations available. For more information about exhibiting or to register to attend, go to ocannabis.com. That's OCANNABIZ.com. Welcome. You're listening to Casually Baked, the podcast. Home base for the canna curious. Thanks for tuning in.
It's high time. We had a high time together. Yes, it's a high time. We had a high time together.
Hi, y'all. I'm Jo, your host and cannabis lifestyle guide. Today, we are talking pot with my family. I am just returning from my family reunion where I had some group conversations with various family members about cannabis and their first time, their relationship with it currently, their thoughts on it, all that good stuff. There wasn't really an agenda. It just was organic conversation and questioning. And so these audio recordings that you're going to hear, they're not the best quality because I was using my phone. If your family is anything like mine and you all get together, it gets a little bit crazy. And so there was always something going on. There was always a baby crying or a toddler giggling and raising hell. And so I just did the best I could, and there's going to be parts of it where you might not be able to hear someone as well as you would like to. But I didn't want to cut any bits out because it's just kind of this authentic evolution of the conversation. And so I just wanted to leave it all there. So this episode is also going to be a little bit longer than the others, but I hope you love it. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get something out of it. And I hope it inspires you to have your own conversations. I'm sure you won't be surprised by my very first question. Daddy, tell me, I want to know the first time you smoked pot. How old were you?
Come here.
To me, probably 25.
25? Are you lying or are you being serious?
No.
So when you smoked pot, what did they call it back then? Was it grass?
Weed.
Was it weed? Okay. So you smoked weed for the first time when you were 25. Where was it? In Texas?
Time. And he did not inhale at home. At the house.
I heard that story. Mom told me that story.
One time.
Just
never
once.
Again.
Are you kidding?
I have trouble believing that.
Never again.
I have a hard time believing that as well.
Nope.
That Daddy only smoked weed one time when he was 25 years old.
Yeah, you don't seem like a one and done.
I know.
No, I preferred beer.
Huh.
All
Beer
right.
and tonic. I didn't like the way it made me feel.
Yeah.
I just, felt like I lost control and I don't like being out of control.
Man, see, that's what alcohol is.
Yeah, but it doesn't do that
Daddy's like, gin is one of my food groups.
to me. That food group.
So if it legalized in Texas, you don't have to smoke it, but would you consume it?
I'm using the cream and some of the medicinal, but as far as smoking it or doing anything, no.
Yeah. Well, and now when that does happen, it is completely medicinal and measured, and it's not like it was before. So you could get it and use it responsibly. Because Joycey Bear was like, no way, would never do that. And I'm like, well, Joycey Bear, What if I told you it would maybe make you less forgetful and it could reverse the effects of dementia? Would you try it then? She was like, oh, yeah, I bet I would. I'm like, well, that was easy.
I got open mind.
Yeah. Buffy, what about you?
What?
Your first experience was with me, right? And it
I
was
don't like it. No, I don't care for it.
well, that was
You know
my
what? It's only because Joanna wasn't this back then.
that was my fault. You had a bad experience.
When you were young and immature.
Well, you know, we don't know what we don't know. Buffy spent a lot of time on a bathroom floor with covered in hair. She was so mad at me.
I told Bubby that not have Bubby in there.
Greg, when was the first time that you smoked?
Probably 8th grade.
8th grade?
Yeah.
Did you do it a lot, or was it just,
Yeah,
yeah?
a lot.
What?
Did your mom know? Like, were you easy to catch or?
They knew, but they couldn't ever catch me smoking.
Yeah.
But they knew that I smoked it.
Because that's the thing I find with a lot of parents. They always think that their kids are like, yeah, I know this is going on in schools or whatever, but you know, my kids are good. They're not that interested in it. And I can get one look at their kid and be like, yeah, they are. Haley, have you ever smoked pot?
I didn't even drink until I was in college, so.
When are you still playing ball?
Yeah.
So you get random drug tested as athletes in college, right?
You can.
They don't do it very often.
That's football players, mostly.
Yeah.
It's not random.
But Phil, what are y'all teaching the kids at school now?
Don't do it. Don't do anything illegal. Candid.
And what do you think should be taught?
Everything. Well, we give me your
Well, I know, I'm just recording it.
Oh, you want more?
You're like, well, I've already told you this. Quick sidebar. My sister Buffy is the lead guidance counselor for the largest high school in the state of Texas. And so I've been picking her brain quite a bit about what is being taught in the schools, which is nothing. Abstinence is being taught. But what the conversations are amongst the actual counselors and administrators in regards to cannabis and drug education. It was too chaotic in that room, and my sister really likes to be thoughtful in her responses, and she gets sidetracked very easily, and she just couldn't concentrate. And so I will be doing a special episode where I'm either talking to her or I have her record her thoughts and send them my way. But that's a much bigger conversation that I do want to get into. But she wasn't ready to have that conversation again that day, because as you can tell by the room, it was fucking nuts in there. All right, are you ready? We're going back in. So Bambi and Melissa have a 2-year-old, right? 2 now? And twin little babies. So, how do we feel about being casually baked parents? Is this in the cards or not?
Yes, it's very much in the cards, and we can't wait for that to happen. That will make life much easier, a little bit stress-free.
Yeah. Well, and I tell the parents that I'm around in California, and the ones that come to me, because they're always concerned about, being hypocritical about, like, we don't want our kids to think it's okay, but they want to consume or they need it for whatever reason. And so I always say, let them know that you're doing it from really early on. That way it's like, this is just mommy's medicine.
Well, that's how I was raised. My father has smoked my whole entire life, and I've known from the age of 5 that he did it, and I always had to knock on his door before I could enter because he was in there, and at that time he was smoking the water bong. It wasn't, anything medicinal by any means, and his friends would come over, but that was his time, and we always knew what he was doing, and we weren't supposed to do it till we were of age. So I've always grown up knowing my father does it. He still does to this day. And
So you had a healthy respect for the plant, and you...
yes, it wasn't a drug to me, per se.
Right. So when was the first time that you ended up smoking?
I was 15, and it was laced with something, and it freaked me out. But it didn't stop me from trying it again.
Oh, I was like, so it scared you straight for a while?
No, sure didn't. A couple weeks later, I was trying it again, and I stayed high all day, every day, from 17 until 19, and then I got a job where they drug tested randomly, so I had to stop doing it, and then started back after I got the job, and just played my cards and was lucky. And
Yeah. So when did you learn kind of the nuances of how to consume and stay functional? Because if you were doing that, you're in school, like you're a kid at school. So were you just out of it, or were you still a good student? And how,
oh yeah, I was still a good student, still graduated with A's and B's, and I guess my body just really meshes well with it and really appreciates it, that I wasn't, sunken into a couch like the commercial used to always show, and, useless. I still drove around, did everything I wanted to do while maintaining a nice buzz, I guess. But
Yeah.
I didn't sit there and just smoke myself obliterate either.
right. Well,
Enjoy that.
thanks, Daddy.
That's blowing the nose, by the
Being a
way.
heavy pot user in the mornings, you just nose run, can't breathe.
Well, actually, Daddy, you don't even know what you're talking about. Although I will say I am a bit allergic to cannabis, and so when I do smoke, sometimes I'll sneeze, but I always have a runny nose for a little bit after I smoke. But I'm also a little bit allergic to pecans and avocados and watermelon, and there's you pick your battles.
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
I can deal with the sniffling nose. Daddy, you've only smoked one time. How do you know?
That's why I quit.
Well, now that the room is clear, is it really still just one time?
Right.
No, I did one time. I didn't like the way it made me feel.
That's so hard for me to understand, because I just love it so
if you
much.
only do it once, you really don't know how it makes you feel. 'Cause
I
the
know
first time it was
I know
like,
how it made me feel, so
I know, but I'm just saying, if you do it more often, then it.
Like Bambi got sick and puked the first 3 times that she did it, and
I went back for more.
like she
Gluttony.
ruined the night. We had
They
plans
call
to
that
go
gluttony.
out, and here she is sick, puking on the bed. I'm spinning, I can't get up, and I'm like, well, we have plans. She's like, I can't go anywhere, and I'm
It's
like,
just because I had too much, and once I gradually, my body got used to it, it was life-changing for me.
got her off of
Figure
3
out
medications.
Yeah.
How it works.
Exactly. So you were on an antidepressant.
Antidepressant, anti-anxiety, and a sleeping pill for about, 8 or 9, maybe 10 years. And then when I met Melissa, she's like, why don't you just take a hit of weed?
Yeah.
And I said, because it just makes me sick. I probably tried it first with Nikki. Oh, man.
When you were 25, the first time you ever saw weed.
Yeah, no, I was 20. I was in college, so I was 22.
22.
Yeah, and I didn't know what it was. But
But that's a really big deal to be on 3 medications
Yeah,
for
for
8 years,
Yes.
and then, thank God for you, Melissa.
yeah, and so I got off all the medication, and Melissa and I, we smoked regularly. We didn't smoke to get blitzed, but we smoked enough to where it would relax me and calm my nerves and help it helped me get off everything. And so I was able to sleep through the night better, and so it was life-changing.
Yeah.
Of course, then when I got pregnant, we had to get off of everything, and I still was able to, I was still fine. I didn't have to go back on any medications or anything. So, and then after I had Camden, then I gradually, every once a month maybe I would smoke, and then after she had the twins, or right before, that's when I kind of started smoking a little bit more.
Yeah.
and I didn't really want to go back on medication. I did. My doctor put me back on an antidepressant. I was having some low moments. Cymbalta, yeah. So I'm taking that right now currently, and
that happened after Grandma died.
yeah, right after Grandma died, I started,
twins.
and then the twins were getting closer to being born. I just started getting some more anxiety. I would wake up. I'd get about 2 or 3 hours of sleep. I'd wake up and just be like in panic mode for no reason. My schedule doesn't change.
Are you ready to make bad days a thing of the past? I invite you to explore the why behind the things you do every day that make you feel awesome. In his new book, Make It a Great Day, author Jarrett Robertson shares small ideas you can use to feel your best. So the next time you're looking for ways to improve your day or mood, you're empowered to do just that. Your day can't control you when you follow this roadmap to thrive. Purchase Make It a Great Day on Audible or online at makeitagreatday.ca.
I have the same. So anyways, I started smoking a little bit more, and it helps.
So you're still taking that Cymbalta. What are the side effects of that?
Constipation, nausea.
Yeah, I've had some nausea. I don't know if I should say weight gain because
That's the nutty bars and the double stuffed Oreos.
I think that's probably more the case. But since I've started taking it, I have gained a few pounds. But I think it's more so that the twins are here
and I'm eating more,
and she's eating more, and so because she's nursing.
Yeah.
But
we also our money with having 3 kids now. We need to balance out whether we can afford to always buy it, so that's why she hasn't smoked probably enough to where she wouldn't have to take the medication. It's just 1 or 2 hits a day just to kind of ease it a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 or 4 hits. It just depends on the day.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I'll be excited for you to try the high CBD.
Yeah.
Yes.
The 3-to-1 CBD THC stuff, so you can have that daytime awareness. And there was at the NorCal Cannabis Cup, I tried for the first time an actual flower that was 3 parts CBD, 1 part THC. And I'd only had that in a pen form before through a concentrate. And the scientist who had gotten it from this guy that at another booth, he brought it over and he was like, "Have you ever had this before?" And I was like, "No." So we both smoke, and which that's the only place you can smoke at work, at your booth. You're at the Cannabis Cup, there's people coming up, you're just smoking a bowl, blowing it out and helping them. It was pretty fun. But all of a sudden I'm like, it seems really bright in here. And I was like, and my field of vision feels expanded. I felt like I could see beyond my peripheral vision and just really alert and aware. Anyway, it was good. I really liked it. And so that's the same ratio.
Exciting.
So I'll be excited for you to try that and see what you think. But do you think that you'll eventually get back off of the Cymbalta and go back to...
That's the goal. That's the goal. Because I don't like being on that type of medicine.
And doesn't it affect your sex drive too? Not like y'all have energy to have sex or anything.
I was about to say my
yeah.
sex drive. Yeah.
It's been gone for a long time.
When you have kids and
Take
then
a moment to rest that soul.
running around, you're exhausted
But yes, it does affect that very much so.
I mean, hell, Camden's on an 11 all the time.
Yeah. I've always known about my dad. He actually sold it to his friends to help make income because my mom died and it was just him at 28 with 2 girls, and disability helped from her Social Security helped, but he still needed more income. But he always told us about it. My sister got into the club Defiant in school, and they wanted you to write a letter if you were aware of your parents doing anything that they weren't supposed to do. And so we're driving to school, and my dad's like, "Oh, well, how's your day going to be? What do you have planned?" Da, 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 da. And my sister's like, "Yeah, in Defiant, they told us to write a letter about, what our parents do and if they did anything they weren't supposed to. And I wrote a letter about you smoking weed." And he was like, you did what? She's like, yeah, I'm going to turn it in today to my teacher. And he was like, oh, let me read that letter. And so thankfully she spoke up about it because, then they would have passed the letter on. My dad probably could have been taken to jail. We would have been put in foster care, and all over weed, which is ridiculous. But here they are, trying to pull this stuff out of kids, which my dad didn't like either. But thank God she spoke up about it and had a big mouth because that saved his ass.
Yeah. I want my kids I want to educate them. I want them to understand what it can do for them. But that I think that it needs to be when they're adults and when they can make that decision. I don't want it to, I want to make sure that they do what they need to do to graduate and do the right things, but I'm not gonna keep things from them. So.
Well, and I think if you're open about it, then it's not as sexy to do it or to hide it because they're like, well, my moms do that. It's it's not a big deal, but it is making the information available. Like I was talking to Buffy. I was like, how long is it going to be until the schools will allow some sort of actual education to happen? Because abstinence is it didn't work for us when we were kids. It's not going to work for these kids now. And so it's like this vicious cycle of everybody just trying to just say no instead of, hey, let's have an educational conversation about it. And then you feel empowered to make the right decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have knowledge behind it.
You think there should be an age restriction?
An age restriction on consumption?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, of course.
21, I dig my heels in at 21. However, if you don't teach these kids about it in high school, then when they go to college, they're going to learn about it from those, asshole frat bros at Rush.
Yeah.
And then they're going to have a really bad experience where they're mixing alcohol and cannabis instead of, I tell my friends, like, be willing to teach your kids how to smoke before they go to college, because whether you think they're good or not, they're going to try it, so you might as well teach them the right way.
Teach them how to smoke?
Teach them how to smoke and how to be mindful, how to microdose, how to choose the right thing for them, whether or not that's having a mint or learning how to vape or smoke or how an edible interacts with their body. Like, all of those things are important.
I don't disagree. My thought process is until it is regulated and what you buy on the street, what you get from in Texas is not necessarily good, not necessarily bad, but you don't know the level. There's no regulation standards. So when I go buy a bottle of gin, it's got 78% alcohol. Everything is on there. When you go buy weed from some guy sitting on the corner, you don't know what the heck you're getting.
Well, and we're talking about too in a regulated market. Like, I live in California. We're having this conversation. By the time Bambi and Melissa's kiddos are old enough to have this conversation, you very well could be able to buy it in CVS at that point. But right now, I'm talking about if you can go to a dispensary and even though it's in Texas right now where you would be buying it from a drug dealer, kids still need to understand what they're getting, what to look for, how to properly consume it so that they don't have this terrible experience. Because something being illegal is not going to stop anybody from doing it. So the education is still necessary regardless of the regulations or the market.
Well, and you can't overdose or smoke too much weed. You can't drink too much gin or alcohol.
Exactly.
And so whether, I know you're still buying it unregulated on the side of the road, but even regardless of the potency of it, it would still be okay.
Not necessarily just the potency. You always hear, there are some that are deadly.
But, Daddy,
Nobody's
let me
ever
just
died
say,
from consuming
I
cannabis.
am, of all the years, 20 years, we're all right. Seriously. So it's not.
And I will tell you, I have tried every drug. I don't know that I've smoked crack. No, really. Yeah. No. Seriously, I've tried a lot of things, and I have had some trippy experiences, some not so great, but cannabis was never on that list. Candid, no, baby. No.
Cannabis doesn't even do what alcohol does to you. Alcohol.
It hurts your body.
Yeah.
And it's more difficult for women to metabolize, so it's harder on women's
Well,
bodies.
there's a reason that
you
marijuana
lose-
stays in your system for 30 days. Your fat cells, your body likes it.
Well,
That's why the
and
hard drugs are there for 3 or 4 days, because it's like, what the hell is
Get
this?
this
Get it
out.
out.
yeah. Well, and the more you learn about the benefits of cannabis, you can see all the ways that you can incorporate it into your life for wellness, and especially for women and for aging people, because our endocannabinoid system starts depleting as we get older, and so the phytocannabinoids in cannabis become important as you get older. Old man, do you hear me? You're
I'm looking at the granddaughter pouring the pencils out on
I
the
know.
floor.
Well,
Quiet right now.
I know, please. It's taken me this long to get half of you in a room, so let's just ignore the little.
The unruly little
Well,
girl.
and as far as raising your kids, first of all, I never told Quentin he couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Ever. I encouraged him to do anything, whatever, just activities and such. So I never didn't let him do something. So he wasn't trying to fight or rebel against anything. And I told him there's nothing wrong with weed. His whole entire life, I have told him weed is a plant.
Yeah.
Other drugs, I would prefer that you not do. I obviously know that I can't stop you from doing that. Just, I want you to know, this is what happens here, this is what happens with this,
Yeah.
and you are more than welcome to smoke all the weed you want when you grow up.
Yes.
Like right now, your brain is developing, you're a kid, you've got things you need to take care of. And so I remember Quentin, I don't know if he told us, or one of his friends did, that he at school they were talking about, and he was like, oh, my mom told me I could do weed when I'm a grown up. So it was like something that was no problem. He didn't have any negative connotations around it, and so he has no attachment to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and he told me if I can go into a store and get it when it's legal, I'll do it. But until then, he's like, I'm not interested in like having to go search for it and meet a stranger in a
Be
parking
shady in the
lot.
parking lot.
Which is, that's fair enough. Makes sense to me. So, Daddy, tell me, within your group and I guess your community, where, we're West Texas, small town folks, but people are seeing the benefits of the tax dollars being raised in, just a few states over in Colorado. What's the general feeling of cannabis and legalization, and where do your people stand?
There isn't a conversation much about weed. There's conversation about the medicinal values. I told you the story about Buck Kraft. He's a 90-year-old cowboy, and they prescribed marijuana pills. He was on the verge of starving to death and dying, and they prescribed marijuana pills to him. And now his appetite's good. He's performing well. But so the medicinal part of it is, but as far as recreational, nobody talks. I don't hear anybody talk about it.
Well, I think for me, the place that I would like the conversation to go is just about cannabis for wellness, and it not being this is the medicinal use of it, and we don't talk about the recreational use, because in all honesty, it is always doing your body good. So regardless of your intention when you're consuming it, you're always receiving these wellness benefits. And so I would love for you to begin having conversations with the people in your community. Tell them what I'm doing. Tell them to listen to the podcast. But I think it is just people hearing little stories about like Buckcraft, or about, a mom that's on an antidepressant and a sleeping pill and an anti-anxiety or mood stabilizer, and being able to get off of all of that medication and not have any of the side effects just by making the shift to cannabis.
The
so
side effect being health.
Yeah.
Wellness.
Well, and the side effect of cannabis is also just like this
that was
peace of
my
mind and
question.
well-being.
That was there's no ill side effects to cannabis?
No, sir. If you over consume while drinking alcohol, you might hate yourself for a couple of days.
What's that mean?
It means that, I call it, and a lot of people will call it, you get crossfaded. So
Which is what happened to Buffy the first time.
Exactly. And
she
so
was too drunk and she smoked.
most people, they have to have liquid courage to try cannabis for the first time. So they get themselves a little liquored up, and then they're like, hey, you know what, I think I will give that a try. And you have to be with someone who knows better to say, no, this isn't the time. You're not going to have a good experience. So when Buffy tried it for the first time, we had been hanging out at the pool at my boyfriend's house at the time and drinking pina coladas and daiquiris by the pool, and then I'm smoking and he's smoking, and she decided she wanted to try it, and I'm in my 20s, I'm young, I'm just like, yeah, here. And she was puking and hugging the toilet the rest of the night, and of course I left her there. I was like, I have plans. This is not working out for me. I'm going to have to go. You're fine.
Ouch.
Yes, I've grown up since then. So, yeah, so there you can have a bad experience.
Yes.
So it's teaching people just the basics. That's why I created that kit, is like, okay, what are all the things that I think people need to know so that they can make an educated decision about how they want to use it, why they want to use it, who they want to talk to about it, all that kind of stuff.
I also told Quentin, from really probably in high school, like, if you are going to drink or if you are going to smoke, first of all, if you drink too much and have a hangover, you are going to think that you're dying, and you're not, but you're going to feel like you are. And if you smoke, don't do it after you've been drinking. Like, I'm just telling you, I'm not trying to control your situation. This is what I want, but if you do this, this is what's going to happen. And I was with that child for his first hangover, and I swear to God, bless his heart, he was in the hall down sitting on the toilet, or sitting on the floor with his head, and he was like, Mom. And I'm like, are you okay? And he was like, I got drunk last night. And so I'm just laughing, and I get him a towel, and I get him, some water, and he's just hating his life. He's so miserable. And we just laughed, and I'm like, well, I told you were going to want to die, and you might think that you are dying. But I was like, but listen, if you had smoked pot, you would have felt even worse than this. So here you go.
Yeah. But even someone choosing not to drink and just smoking for the first time, if the worst thing that they would feel the next morning is like they took like they woke up in the middle of the night and took a Benadryl and went back to sleep. Like, you just feel kind of groggy and tired.
Huh.
Like, that would be a cannabis hangover if you smoked too much. Kind of like waking up as a 70-year-old.
I think it's important for people Butch's age to just open their minds to be educated.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's something that they're ignorant about.
Yes.
They don't know, they don't understand. And so, just reading about it and just educating themselves.
Well, and even just be willing to try something new. Like, because it's at 70 years old, for your whole adult life, you've had this one belief that cannabis is this one thing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden there's all this evidence telling you otherwise. It's hard for people to change their minds, and which makes me crazy.
It's true. But people they just think negative about it.
You know what? There was a smear campaign back in the 40s. Like, that just really demonized it and scared the shit out of older folks, maybe their parents, and then, distilled that information down to...
Well, and so Prohibition planted these seeds of fear and negativity, and then that was bred into all of us as the generations have children and start educating them. It's... We propagate these falsities, and it's just because nobody knows any better. And so, when we know better, we do better. And so it's this whole idea of just when you finally know the truth, then make it your mission to educate those few people that are around you in your circle. And
well, and also recognizing that the alcohol industry does not want the weed to be legal.
Oh no,
it is it's fighting. Right?
Well, and it is affecting their business in a very real way. The states where cannabis has been legalized, alcohol sales
have gone down.
Have gone down, and so there are huge lobbying groups that don't want to see cannabis legalized.
Very little medicinal value to alcohol.
To alcohol, yes.
Like maybe cleaning out a wound or something,
yes.
maybe a glass of red wine and that. But truly, alcohol is terrible for your body.
Well, it's a totally different feeling too. You lose control, and you just, I don't know, you get sick.
Well, and weed opens up your mind, it calms that chatter, that negative self-talk, and allows you to just sit in the silence and peace of your own mind for a minute.
Well, just the whole time we've been here, besides drinking entirely too much wine the day we went wine tasting, I have hardly drank anything.
I know, the same.
And Daddy points to the counter to the bottle of gin that there's like a third of the bottle left, and he said, Mimi did good. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, we brought 3 bottles. This is the third one. I'm like, Jesus Christ, like 3 bottles of gin in this. He's like, well, Joanna, the whole family's drinking it. And I'm like, I'm not drinking it.
Melissa and I had one drink. That was it.
Yeah. And
first night.
We haven't had any of that.
We haven't had any of it. Besides that.
I haven't had one drop.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, Greg, David, Daddy, and Linda.
What now? What are we talking about?
Y'all's alcohol consumption.
The gin versus cannabis consumption in the family.
Oh. Yeah, y'all just want us to get in that. Y'all want all that money going to the cannabis.
Exactly.
Right?
Because you'd be healthier and happier.
Yes.
Well, we're going to give it
I know, Mimi, I like that about you, that you have the open mind.
You so much.
You have to have an open mind to try new things.
Remember that next time I want you to try something new, okay? You got that on recording, don't you, Joe?
I did. It's on the record. Quentin, now that you're in the room, tell me, when was the first time you tried cannabis?
Hey, your daughter's in there, babe.
16 maybe. Like a personally rolled up friend joint, and I don't even remember getting high at all.
Was it just... Oh, so the first time you smoked, you don't think you got high?
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I was my very first time. And then after that, I was like, did I do it wrong?
Yeah.
Like, did I not inhale? What's the deal? But then, so the next time you tried it, how old were you?
Same year, probably.
But then the next time
but it worked the next time, I just remember chocolate ice cream tasted so good. It was like, I was like, like, it was the best time I spent eating that ice cream I've ever had.
So what are your feelings on legalization? You don't smoke regularly now. Tell me why. Like, we talked about that earlier.
Because I'm not trying to text someone and, are you awake right now? Like, where are you? Where can I meet you? It's mostly motivated by laziness. I'm just like, I don't want to do that. But if there was a store that's definitely open, definitely available whenever I just feel like going, then yeah, we'll go there.
Yeah. That totally makes sense to me. It's completely rational thinking. So do you have friends that consume regularly, or?
Yeah, definitely. But recently, one of my friends isn't doing it as much because she's kind of getting anxiety like while she's doing it. But sometimes that happens to her.
Right. So next time you're with her, and so the reason she gets anxiety is because she overdoses on it. So tell her to take what we call a microdose. So if y'all are smoking a bowl together, just have her take 1 or 2 hits and then stop. Because people that have a tendency to get anxiety, if they smoke too much, it intensifies their anxiety. And so just give her that little tip next time y'all smoke.
But I think she was also saying, like, it's never happened when she smokes with me. So it might be like
Who she's with.
Yeah. Like,
well,
but
it definitely is how much, but then, yeah, the environment will also affect.
Yeah.
Do you know how to roll a joint?
No.
I don't either. They're terrible. Well, I mean, I could if somebody held a gun to my head.
Yeah, I could MacGyver it. I could figure it out on the fly, but no.
I had a friend in college that could drive down the street and roll a joint on the top of the steering wheel, and it was magnificent.
Yeah.
I did never get that skill.
Yeah.
I do it when we go on vacation. Like when we go to Belize, that's what we do. I just roll them up. But they're not pretty, but it works.
Well, now they have these great, it's almost like rolling a joint for dummies. And so they have the filter built in, and the paper is kind of a cone that goes out, and then there's a little fill tray in the back of it. And so you can just put your crumbled pot there and just tip it over, and it funnels in, and you just twist the top off. I think they're called Blue Jays.
I need to get some of those.
Yeah, I had ordered some, and they had sent me my money back, and they're like, we're not going to have them ready because they were just launching.
And they sold out or something.
Well, yeah, I guess so. They just said it's going to be a little bit before our next shipment's ready, and so they just refunded my money, and then I never heard back from them. So I'm like, I need to get back on the horn, yeah. But I really honestly don't enjoy smoking joints that much because the paper, to me, it masks the taste of the flower, and so I just feel like that burning paper taste isn't fun. But those new, did you like the Coast cigarettes that?
Yeah, those are good. It makes you feel like you're smoking a cigarette, though, so there's a little mind something in there for me, because you have to pull harder. And but yeah, I totally enjoyed it, and it's perfect for the car.
Well, and that was the feeling I had, was that first initial reaction of like, oh my gosh, I'm smoking a cigarette again. This is terrible. But the ease of it, and I like that there's a true filter on it.
Yeah.
And it does take away it doesn't taste like cannabis a lot. Yeah. It's 100% cannabis, but with that filter, the taste was different. But
what does it taste like?
Not
I don't know.
as ashy as a cigarette, but
no, it definitely not gross like a cigarette does, but just less.
Weedy.
I don't know. Yeah, less weedy.
Less weedy. And that's part of what I love, that taking a breath after you hit that first green bowl, and just like the smell of it and the flavor, and that was you don't get that.
That's
at all
funny.
with a cigarette.
I don't really enjoy the smell of it very much. Like people will be like, "Ah, this doesn't smell good." I'm like, not really.
Oh, I do.
I love it. It smells like a snack.
So those smells are the terpenes, which are the essential oils of cannabis. And so once you are somewhere, when you can go into that store in Texas one day and go in, you can smell at all of these different flavors, and you'll start recognizing like, oh, this one smells like lavender. This is the one that I like smoking in the evening, and this one smells citrusy. This is the one that I love to smoke when I go to a concert. So you'll be able to like have these nuanced experiences, which change things. And I genuinely believe that from me moving from Texas to California and being able to control my experience, I feel much healthier. I feel more vibrant. I don't work out near as much as I did when I lived here, and crushing my body trying to stay fit. It just feels easier.
And I feel like that's the THC, the mind part. That's what I feel is so important about the THC portion of the weed, is that it flips that switch in your mind that makes you think, oh my God, something's wrong, what is this? And go down the rabbit hole of what kind of problems you might have, and just kind of relax into it and say, ooh, interesting. The feeling is something that you are exploring more, the physical sensation, rather than the mind part of trying to figure out what the hell might be wrong with you.
Right. Well, and I try to tell people, like, your mental health is affected as much as your physical health with cannabis, and so it's important for both of those aspects of our being. And so taking the time and effort to learn more about it, you can truly affect your overall well-being,
because we are creating our reality. And so when you recognize all the medicinal benefits, then as you're consuming, whether that's sublingual or through an edible or vaping it or whatever, and you recognize and and acknowledge all the positive things that are happening throughout your body, then you are receiving the full benefit of that.
Yeah. That's true.
So when we went to the Blanco Museum and we smoked whatever we went before, was that like, I know that there's supposed to be like different strains like body highs and mind highs. Was that supposed to be like a mind high kind of thing, or was it
when we were in Austin?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
The Blanton.
Oh, the Blanton.
The
I was like, I don't remember going to a museum in Blanco. The
No.
Blanton.
We went to see.
I don't remember what it was that I can't remember what we had in there, but yeah, we hit the vape pen before we went into the Blanton. I was like, museums are way more fun when we're high.
But it's like, because I just remember, because you were like, who was it? The guy that they were showcasing all his art.
I can't remember.
It was. He has that Marilyn Monroe picture with the face.
Soup cans.
Andy Warhol.
Andy Warhol, thank you.
I could not remember, but I just remember you walked in and you were just like, I get it, man. Like, why do you have to take shit so serious all the time? And honestly, it was like my mind was blown, because I was like, oh my God, I did not get it until you just said that. Like, I really did not understand. I was like, I don't really like these weird colors and like all of the stuff he's doing. And then you said that, I was like, oh my God, it makes so much sense.
Exactly. You've got to get in the mindset of the artist. And listen, they are not living from the left brain like so many other people are. You got to get in your right brain and like see the world for what it really is, rather than the hard corners that we're...
Well, and we were standing there looking at things, and Quentin would just be looking, and he'd see something, and then I would tell him what I saw, and then he's like, oh my God, like slapping me on the arm.
Well, because like there was this other one, like Book from the Sky or whatever, and like I liked that experience more because there was just like letters, and it felt so like
it was a script. This this artist just created his own language and just wrote.
And there's just paper. It's the whole room is filled with paper, filled with like fake letters, basically. And it just felt like so, like almost ethereal. I was like, whoa, like I'm in some other place. Like, I like was enjoying that more before she even mentioned that other.
Yeah.
And so then we went to the Andy Warhol exhibit after that, and so then it's just like all these color and ridiculousness and whatever, and Quentin is just like snores.
But I was wondering because like typically when I smoke I feel it like
a body high.
Yeah, like, but that one I don't remember feeling like. I remember
it was more cerebral. So
you
it
were
was
also engaged. You were walking around engaging with your mind.
And when you feel that more body high, that's an indica dominant, either concentrate or flower, and then the sativa is more of the cerebral, and so it was probably a sativa dominant.
Thank you.
It was probably sativa dominant what you and I smoked that day. But it was fun.
Yeah.
Yay! That made me so happy. But we got to have lunch together, and then y'all spent time together. That thrilled me.
Well, it thrilled us too.
Yay!
All right, let's go have some smoke time on the porch. Check on Dion. Another sidebar. After lunch on the very last day, I was able to sit down with my 16-year-old nephew. He's had a bit of a rough go of it over the last year. He found himself in some trouble at school with cannabis. And so as someone who's trying to figure out how to help parents educate their kids, I just wanted to ask him a few questions. And his mom and daddy said yes, and he was brave enough to answer some questions for me. And so this is our brief conversation. So Blake, you are about to be a senior in high school, right?
Right.
Okay, I'm curious what the drug scene is like at school. So in California, there's a kid that I talked to, and he said when you go to the restroom, it's like just a cloud of vape smoke in the bathrooms. So I want you to tell me what it's like at your school.
Yeah, there's always people in there vaping in school, just acting a fool in the bathroom. So, yeah, I mean, people also do other types of drugs in the bathroom, so...
So when they're vaping, are they vaping nicotine or cannabis?
Just nicotine, usually.
Are you seeing any of the vaping concentrates, for cannabis concentrates at your school?
Not really, no, not in Franklin. We don't have any real concentrates besides some dabs occasionally.
So are the kids, do the majority of the kids at school, are they experimenting with cannabis, or what's going on?
Oh yes, I'd say about 85% of each class has been exposed to weed one way or another.
What about you? When was the first time you were exposed to it at school?
Freshman year.
Yeah. What about junior high? Was it just making the jump to high school when the drugs started being prevalent, or was it around in junior high too?
It was around 7th grade for me, so.
Well, are there kids selling drugs at school? How does everybody get them?
Yeah, well, usually after school. I mean, it'll be somebody from your school.
But are there, those creepy older kids lurking around that sell them, or are they actually students that...
No, yeah, it's students. It's just regular old students. And then you'll just hit them up, and they'll come through.
What about, do your teachers, your counselors, do they talk to y'all about drugs, or?
No, not really, to be honest. We don't really talk anything about that at all.
And there's never been any sort of drug testing or dogs coming through the school? Do the teacher, does the administration even know?
Yeah, they bring dogs, but I mean, nothing else really.
How is that random? How often per year?
It's randomly, and half the time you don't even know when they do it unless somebody gets in trouble, so.
So when kids bring drugs to school, where are you keeping them?
I guess in your bag. I mean, only people who aren't very smart about it bring them, because you can be searched or whatever. So.
What about your cars outside? Can they search your cars too?
Yes, they can run dogs like through the outside of your car, and then if they get marked or whatever, then they can like have you come unlock your car.
So, do you think parents know how prevalent it is, or do you think everybody's snowed?
I mean, a lot of parents are snowed, I guess you would say, but the ones who have caught their kids and stuff, they usually know what's going on, or they're more familiar with it, so.
Do you think it would help if there was some sort of drug education that happened at school? Or, like, what would you like to, as a student, what do you think would, as a student who has been caught with drugs, right? You have been?
Right.
Okay. So you being caught with them at school and you having to go through some sort of program, what do you think would have helped you make better decisions?
Honestly, probably not very much, man. I mean, these kids are gonna do what they're gonna do, and I mean, I really don't think that there's anything to do to help these kids. There's plenty of stuff that people have done for me, and it took a lot for me to learn. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So to me, I feel like if everyone is empowered with the information, then they would make better choices for themselves, perhaps, or use them more responsibly. Because you're right, they're going to experiment. It's going to happen.
Right.
So I personally think if they're going to do it anyway, at least let them be educated.
Yeah, and if somebody's educated, like, I believe that could work, but it would have to be somebody like that they trusted and knew very well, or something that was educating them. Like, I don't know how to explain, but I just don't think, like, if the teachers or something were like giving like personal experience or giving any knowledge on it or whatsoever, I don't think people would listen to them, because people don't listen to them about anything. So
it would need to come from a peer or someone who's been through it,
or just, you know, like, I don't really know how we could do it.
Well, I'm working on something. We'll figure it out.
All right, I like that.
Okay. Well, do you have any personal experience or anything that you want to tell me? Anything that would totally blow my mind that I don't know happens?
Like at school?
At school, or just in general with teens and drugs, and because I have a lot of parents that come to me and ask me for help, and so I try to have a better understanding of what's going on, because I feel like kids are more open to talk to me than they are to talk to their parents.
For sure.
And so I'm just trying to arm myself with information so I can help parents help their kids.
Yeah, I mean, something that would surprise you possibly is that, you know, anything can be anywhere and kids might do it, you know, like your kids are never too good to do this or that, you know what I'm saying? You don't always know your kids, so just, I guess, like, be ready for anything. And I mean, just make sure that you try to teach them what's right and what's wrong as far as the drug world, because they will get into it. And if it's all bad, and then if like, even you're telling them that weed is bad, and they do that, and then they're gonna think that anything could be just like weed. Like, you say it's bad, but in reality, it's not that bad.
Right. So if you make a mountain out of cannabis and they're like, actually it wasn't that bad, and so then you think they're going to easily try coke or
for sure.
or crack or meth or something like that.
Yeah.
So being realistic and honest about the pros and cons and all that stuff.
Exactly like that.
Yeah, there's no pros to smoking crack.
Yeah, no.
All right. Well, I love you. Thank you for talking to me.
Girl. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if y'all are as disturbed as I am, about the educational situation out there, but, you know, I really hope that you will consider teaching your kids about cannabis at home, because they're not learning about it at school. And I hope if you've learned anything in this 1 hour session, it's that it's fucking important. These kids need to know because they're doing it anyway. Makes Aunt JoJo nervous, guys. Thank you to my family for participating. I know it probably makes you a little bit nervous to talk about cannabis and let me put it out onto the airwaves. But you're doing your part. You're being a soldier for the cause, and I love you for it, and thank you for supporting me. Ooh, one more thing. While I was home, I was a guest on the Hodgecast, which is the podcast of one of my fun and hilarious friends, Charlie Hodge. In your podcast search, check out Hodgecast, HODGECAST, and I'll be on his next episode, I think. If you're a fan of the podcast, I hope that you will subscribe and share it with a friend. If you get a wild hair, review and rate the show. And if you're really feeling inspired, feel free to email me at ask@casuallybaked.com. You can send me your questions if you have suggestions or tips for the show, or even if you've had a conversation with your family members and you want to tell me about it, or even send me the audio recording of it. I'm open to whatevski. As long as you're participating in the conversation, I'm happy as a pig in shit. Until next time. Casually Baked, the podcast, was created, recorded, produced, edited by the team of Just Joe. Our theme music is by my handsome and fabulous friend Seth Walker. If you aren't familiar with his music, check out his latest album, Gotta Get Back, wherever you are buying your music these days. I know he didn't create High Time for me, but it sure as shit sounds like he did, right? I hope you'll tune in next time. Thanks for hanging out.
I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your cannabis business podcast, The Talking Hedge, and newest member on PodCon X. So come on over and check out The Talking Hedge. We talk about business news, interviews, investments, events, all that stuff. So come nerd out with me over at The Talking Hedge. You can find me at thetalkinghedgepodcast.com or on all your favorite podcast platforms. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out.